What do you get for being better than the rest before everyone's ready? Well, that's going to be one of the fearless questions that we're asking this week as we fearlessly question being ahead of your time with Chris Alfano, the bassist and vocalist, part time vocalist of East of the Wall, a New Jersey based progressive rock metal ish is a probably a terrible label, but let's just put it this way: the music is thinking in a direction that most people are not, and it's not even necessarily Chris's band, his current band, East of the Wall. That's going to be the center of the conversation. It's actually going to be one of his first. Well, I don't know if it's one of his first, but it's one of the first bands I became aware of him in. And I'll tell the story real quickly. It was, I guess we'll start back in 2002. It was my freshman year of college, and I was big into music all through high school and obviously into college. And you can see that guitar back there playing music. I've said on the show many times that I spent a decent amount of time pursuing a career in music, and so I was very into it, and it was very much a thing and very much a focal point of my life. And always looking for new bands, always looking for new music, always looking for new experiences, and I was always willing to try something new out, more on the guitar, drum, and bass side of things. You could call it rock, alternative metal, a lot of it in that spectrum. But as I've grown up, blues, jazz, a lot of different stuff is incorporated into my musical taste. Anyways, not really relevant, but just felt like sharing. And so needless to say, we used to, my freshman year of college, we used to make a weekly Tuesday trip to Best Buy, because that's when the new CDs, we still bought CDs in 2002, and that's when the new DVDs, or we bought DVDs in 2002 as well, would come out. And we would go and check out and see some sales. We'd usually buy at least a DVD or a CD every week to be young and have disposable income. Anyways, that was the life. Enough of my reminiscing. But anyways, I always noticed an album by a band called the Postman Syndrome. And this was Chris's band that originally had kind of tipped me off to them. And I don't know if I just wasn't particularly ready for this, but I had somehow ended up with a song on my computer. This is right on the verge of illegal downloadings. This is probably right after Napster was destroyed, and a few of the remaining illegal downloading services were still out there. But anyways, digital files were being passed around. And somehow I had ended up with the very first song off the album, which was titled Amputees Make Bad Swimmers. And the album is called Terraforming, and if you read the event description to this, I kind of tell a very brief version of this story. And that song sounded really cool to me. It sounded, I don't know, again, I think, again, it was, so ahead of its time. I wasn't particularly advanced enough to really understand what I was listening to. And I liked it. But for whatever reason, I don't know why. I mean, I bought everything at that time in my life. I mean, if I even remotely liked it, I bought it. And for whatever reason, that album escaped me for the better part of the next 4 years. It was released in 2002, and I didn't acquire it fully until after I got out of college, or it might have been my senior year of college, but I think it was 2006. And I finally got the album, and I listened to it, and even 4 years later, I was shocked, really, at just how relevant and current, and actually, beyond what was currently happening in 2006. And I remembered, wait a second, this thing came out in 2002. And, as the years went on, and as I kept listening to it, I just kept being amazed that just, still bands had not even come close to catching up to a lot of the stuff that they were doing. And even today you listen to it, and, it was just amazing. And that album was so far ahead of its time. And really, this is kind of just me being selfish. I should have started it out this way. Really, this is just a pure and utterly selfish show, because I wanted to talk to Chris just because I love the album. I love the band. And even the new band, East of the Wall, is spectacular. They've gone in and out of kind of different bands since the Postman Syndrome. They only made that one album. and then they kind of broke up. And so basically, the kind of the moral of the stories is they were not, metal or rock icons. They didn't win any Grammys. The band broke up because half of the members didn't want to tour. Half of the members did, because probably they had day jobs and they weren't, actually, full-time, full-paying musicians. And they released a B-sides album of just some stuff that never got fully finished. But they went on to form some different bands. They did a one-off album called Day Without Dawn. I got that album fantastic. Then they kind of got into East of the Wall. And a lot of that stuff I didn't get into initially right away. It was more instrumental at first, and then they kind of slowly really kind of just evolved back into what a modern-day Postman Syndrome would be. And I tended to ramble about music because I used to do it. Like I said, I've obviously mentioned before, I ran a music website, did reviews, interviews, and all that fun stuff. So not getting to talk about music for quite some time, I'm probably just rambling and gushing and getting all of that out, on this show. But the goal and the whole reason that we are fearlessly questioning being ahead of your time with Chris is because here's a group of people who put together a piece of work, a creative work that, in a time where it was still relatively, lucrative. Okay, it was just right on the cusp of, right before the music industry kind of completely decentralized, and nothing happened, right? And again, you look at painters that are, again, before their time, authors and poets who are, release stuff, and it's not till years later after they're even dead to where people really truly understand and appreciate their work. It is those people that are so far ahead of the curve that they spend most of their life, not getting their due, if you will. They're not able to see the benefit of that creative work. They're not able to get that feedback, that response, that appreciation for what they're doing. And I know this is probably a problem not most of us have, but it's an interesting one because we're always trying to find the next big thing. I don't know if the way things work 10, 15, 20 years later that we are maybe faster to pick up on some of these things, where things are moving faster and maybe we are keeping up a little bit better, but maybe more in the technology and in that space as opposed to some of the creative stuff. I don't know. But I do know that East of the Wall has continued with, where the Postman Syndrome left off, and even their most recent album, the name is escaping me. It's Radioactive something or other. Think of it later. But even to where that album now is probably the equal to, the equal equivalent to what Terraforming was in 2002. That's what that's doing in 2015. And still, I mean, they're not, they're touring, around the country, but, they're playing small clubs. They're coming to a club outside of my hometown here. It's a small, tiny club. It's not nothing big. And it's just, I guess the question is, how do we catch people up, or how do we, bring that work better? Or how do we present it? Because obviously there's a communication gap in there. And I think that's part of the problem with a lot of issues in our life and the things that we're trying to create, is that there's a communication gap that we don't want to realize or acknowledge. And is it watering the product down, or is it just a cross to bear with trying to push boundaries and be so far ahead of that curve to even, be over the curve where people can't even see it? I don't know. And it's just a very fascinating concept for me. And that's why I wanted to have Chris on, because, like I said, I just want to talk to him and say, listen, what's going on here? And get kind of the full story behind his experience, because I have, what I think I've observed from a distance, what these creative endeavors have, got them. And I just want to know what his perspective on it is, and what he thinks can be achieved from it. Because, one, I think so many people in our position that have maybe attempted that and failed, or have never even thought to attempt that, as far as, some type of creative work to that magnitude, we've given up on it. And is it valid? Should we try and do more of that? Should we try and push ourselves to that limit, but learn from, maybe, I don't know if Chris would call them mistakes, but figure out a way to bridge that gap, to maybe create that wormhole to where the space and time are a little bit equal. I don't know if that's a word, but you get what I'm saying. And that's the whole thing. That's what we want to talk about. So we will be doing that with Chris Alfano of East of the Wall Wednesday. That's February 25th. We're doing off our normal show day and out of our normal show time because Chris, again, he told me he does have to work. So even today, I believe he holds a day job down when he's not touring, unless I don't know exactly what he classifies as work, but he couldn't get off work until about 7:30, and so we're going to be doing at 8:30 Eastern time here. And hope you want to stay up with us. We're moving into prime time finally, getting our due. So we're going to be in prime time with Chris. So we're going to be doing that live. So if you want to have your opportunity to come talk to Chris, ask him a question live, we'll attend the hangout and just ask him a question. And the best one's we'll just bring you on and have you ask it to him. Also, in addition to that, don't forget to head on over to fearlesslyquestioning.com/subscribe to subscribe to the show if you're not already. Or, obviously, if you want to go ahead and leave your own fearless question for a rating, review in iTunes and or Stitcher, and we would greatly appreciate that and start featuring some of those on the show as well. And of course, while you're there, you might as well go ahead and hop on the Fearlessly Questioning newsletter, if you will. Gain access to the Fearless Files library, where every single guest that comes on the show asks the question, what fearless question are they most afraid to ask themselves in their own life and or business? And it is honestly the best 3 to 5 minutes that you will ever get with any one of these guests, as you're going to get an immense head start to learn from their mistakes, the things that are troubling them, because they're going to tell you what they are and they're going to tell you how they're working to answer it, which is the key to it all. So you're going to hear what they're afraid of and how they're trying not to be afraid of it. And it's going to put you right up there, again, creating that wormhole essentially to bridge the gap for their fear. And we've got it for all. So we've got we've had 30. This is the 32nd show, so we've got 31 in there. Chris's will be up the day of the show. And again, it's always updated every week with every new guest that comes onto the show. So feel free to get access to that. Start diving into those videos. Again, just 2 to 3, 5 minutes a piece. Very easy to go right through. They're all right in a row. And really, I promise you'll walk away just inspired, motivated, maybe a little nervous, but it will get you in a place that is saying, all right, this is kind of cool. And then also, we wrap everything up on Sunday with a little kind of community, little communication party, if you will, a little conversation where, I'll send you an email with my final thoughts of what I actually thought came away from the show, what we took away from the whole thing. And, the one big thing that, out of all of the questions that just kind of keeps spinning in my head, so it's just what thought has not stopped echoing in my brain since I had the conversation with the guest. We have an opportunity to talk about that. You can reply directly to the emails. I will respond, and we will, kind of continue that conversation, and it's a lot of fun. So enough of me babbling about that stuff, but that's all of what I want you to know and experience with the show. So feel free to head back, catch us live on Wednesday the 25th at 8:30 p.m. Eastern. Otherwise, it will be recorded and obviously delivered to you in wherever you're subscribed, YouTube, Stitcher, iTunes, blah, blah, blah. It's all there. So, but I will catch you guys then. I'm Joey Jingola. Take it easy, everybody.